If you've got a motorhome or a campervan and you've not been able to use it for months and you're a little bit worried about what you need to do to look after it and give it the best chance of fun and adventure when we can actually travel again, then keep watching. This is the video for you.
It's a good life. No, we are never letting this go. Oh, oh, oh.
Hey guys, I'm Kat from the Motorhome travel website Wandering Bird, where we share tips and tricks for touring the UK and Europe by motorhome or campervan. Now, I've been chatting with my email list recently over jobs that you need to do to maintain your vehicle throughout winter and or this massive lockdown, things that you need to do to make sure that it is going to be working and alright for you to use as soon as we are allowed to travel again. If you're not on my email list and you'd like to get tips like that straight into your inbox, then there's a link in the notes. You can click that. I'll send you your free motorhome maintenance checklist and I'll send you future tips that you can use for your motorhoming. Now, this video is going to be just about jobs that you need to do during winter or a period of inactivity. It's not about how to prepare your motorhome. If you do want to know how to prepare your motorhome or camper for winter for next year, then again, there's a link in the notes and you can go through that post and it will tell you step by step everything that you need to do to prep your vehicle. But let's assume that you've done all that. We're now in February. It's not looking like anyone's going anywhere anytime soon. So what should you be doing with your vehicle right now to help keep it in good condition? As another caveat, as I'm filming this, the UK is still in full lockdown. I know that some people have got access to their vans, whether they're on the drive or nearby, and some people don't. Of course, as we come out of full lockdown, I'm sure there'll be a tier system or something, so please do use your common sense and stay within the government guidelines. But you should be able to do these jobs at some point in the future, we hope. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to get more motorhoming tips and tricks each week, then by all means hit subscribe and the little bell. You'll be notified when new videos come out to help you. Right, let's dive into how to look after your vehicle during winter. So the first thing that you do when you arrive at your vehicle, wherever it may be, whether it's on your drive or in storage, have a look around the outside first. So you're going to be looking for things like obvious damage, if there's been any vandalism or anything, touch wood. You're also going to be looking for patches of discoloration, which can mean that you've got a leak. So have a quick look around the outside. If you can, get up on the roof and see if there's any issues up there. Now, if you have some sort of motorhome cover, I would advise that every now and then throughout winter you take the cover off, A, to let the vehicle breathe, and please make sure that you have a breathable cover. If you have one of these thick tarpaulin type covers, all you're going to do is make the vehicle mouldy inside. So as long as it's a breathable cover, you should be okay, but I would check every now and then underneath and on the roof and things, and just make sure that things aren't going mouldy or that you don't have damp and moisture collecting, and let it breathe and dry out every now and then, obviously when it's not raining and storms and things are going on. Another thing to check whilst you're going around the outside, if you have a spare tyre, and I know most modern motorhomes don't now, but if you do have a spare tyre casing underneath the van or perhaps on a campervan at the back, make sure you open it, because one thing that corrodes quite quickly are the lock, but also the hinges and the actual fittings. And if you don't open it and get it going, then it can rust up, and by the time you actually come to need it, you can't get into it. So make sure that you open all that. Same with any outdoor lockers, just make sure you open the locks and that you use the hinges a few times just to keep it all working, and maybe put some oil on there to keep it lubricated and protect it. When you get inside, the first thing you need to do is use your eyes and also use your nose. Now, the air is going to smell musty if you've not been in your vehicle for a few weeks, but there's a difference between stale and mould. So first of all, you want to look and see if there are any discoloration patches, which might mean you have a leak. You also want to smell to see if there's anything that looks like it's going mouldy. Have a look at cushions or any soft furnishings which you might have left inside. Have a look in cupboards. Make sure that there is air circulating into all your drawers, all your cupboards. If you have a bed, make sure that the mattress has been propped up and hasn't gone mouldy underneath. We've done that before. And you want to make sure that everything that needs air circulating to it has got air circulating to it. Now, if you've chosen to use vent covers for your fridge or whatever, then you can leave those on, that's fine, but make sure that some form of air is getting into the vehicle. Obviously, if you have holes which air can come in, then you can also get little insects and rodents and stuff. So you also want to have a look around and make sure that you haven't got any of those. There is a biscuit test, which is brilliant, where you put a little bit of a biscuit on the floor of your motorhome or camper, and the idea is that it's still there when you come back. If it's not, then something's obviously eaten it. So you want to make sure that if that's gone, you want to find out what's taken it. But hopefully it'll still be there and you won't have anything crawled into your van to make it a nest for the winter. If you do see any signs of a leak or discoloration, then you need to get it dealt with as quickly as possible. Most service centres can deal with the start of a leak or damp or anything like that quite quickly and not very expensively, relatively. If you leave it and leave it and leave it, certainly for a couple of months, then it's going to be a much bigger job, much more expense, and depending on your motorhome and the way that it's been manufactured will depend on exactly how big a job it is. Let's talk quickly about engines and tyres. Now, running the engine is useful, but running the engine for 20 minutes isn't going to charge your battery, and we're going to talk about batteries shortly. But run the engine to run the engine. Now, whether you can or cannot drive your motorhome will depend, but if you can take it for a drive for a good 20-30 minutes, that will really help it, especially diesel engines. They like to be worked, they don't like to be stood for a long period of time, so get it going. Starting the engine and keeping it in one place is not ideal, but if you don't have any other option, it's better than nothing. And what you want to do is start your engine, and then you want to rev it in 30-second to a minute intervals, and then give it a little bit of a break and then rev it again just to get some oomph throwing through the engine. I'm not a mechanic by any sense of the word, but it just helps things flowing and get it going and get it being used again rather than it just being sat and stationary. But ideally you want to take it for a nice good drive. That will help charge up the engine battery and keep that going. You don't want to just drive 5 minutes and then start the engine again, because obviously you're continuing to use the engine battery without giving it any power and charge back. When you come back from your drive, if you can, you need to park the tyre on a slightly different spot. And once you're looking at the tyres, you're also looking for any bulging spots, any flat spots, if the tyre's gone flat, full stop. But you want to try and move them onto a slightly different point. Now, some people do this very technically and they mark the tyre before they drive off so that they know it's on a different point, which is quite clever. We tend to just find one tyre, remember the text that's on the bottom of that tyre, and make sure that it's in a different position for the next time. But how you do it is completely up to you. Just make sure that the van is resting on a different spot. If you have these things called tyre savers or like chocks that go under your wheel, I don't mean levelling chocks, but the proper chocks that take the weight off the van off the tyres, then those are really useful for winter and definitely use those. Whilst you're running the van, put on the heating, make sure that it gets hot, and also put on the air conditioning if you have it, make sure it gets cold. Again, you're just keeping the systems going. Okay, let's talk about motorhome batteries, especially leisure batteries or the domestic battery. I'm going to do a full video on this because when I sent out the email about motorhome maintenance, I got an awful lot of emails back about how to look after your battery, how to choose a good leisure battery, all of these sorts of questions. So I am going to do a full in-depth video on leisure batteries. But for now, let's just talk about how you look after your battery in the winter. Ideally, you need some form of charge, and if you want to understand why a battery loses its charge, and again there's a whole post on the website that you can get to that, but if you think about, you know when you get a static shock and your hair all goes on end and so you've got all this energy, all this electricity for want of a better explanation, and then it just dissipates, it just sort of goes somewhere magically away. That's what happens to your battery. If you leave it and do nothing with it for months and months and months on end, the energy in it will slowly magically go. Again, not an electrician, not anyone clever enough to understand physics, it just goes. I can't explain to you why, it just does. So even if your battery has been fully charged when you put it away, which it always should be before you put it away for a long period of storage, it will drop in levels, and obviously the longer you leave it, the lower this level is gonna go. Now, the important thing to know with most motorhome batteries is 50% is the magic level. If you fall much below that, and especially if it's cold, there's a very high chance that your battery isn't going to recover and you're going to need to buy a new one when you come to use your van again in the future. The problem with batteries is they don't like cold, so when it is cold, they drop even quicker. So you do need to do something to make sure that you don't totally ruin your batteries throughout winter. Now, another reason that the battery dies is because there are all sorts of things in the motorhome that even when you're not using the van can drain the battery. So things like an alarm, a tracker, even the motorhome clock, rear dash cams, rear view cameras, randomly they seem to take some sort of power even when you're not using it if the engine isn't even switched on. What else? There's all sorts of things that can take a very small amount from the battery, tiny, but obviously over a period of weeks or months that can actually add up to be quite a lot. So it's worth knowing exactly what is draining your battery and finding ways to mitigate that if you're going to leave your battery in all winter. Now, the type of method that you use will depend an awful lot on your motorhome or your campervan and the system that you have got set up. If you have a basic system, which most modern vans actually have the next system up or even a couple of levels up from this, but if you have an older van, you might just have what's called a basic battery charger, and that's literally power in, power to the battery, but there's no control. So when the battery gets full or gets topped up, the power still goes in, and that actually is really bad for the battery. So you don't want to leave it on full power all the time or being plugged into electric all the time. If you've got that sort of system, it can be really bad and can actually damage the battery the other way for getting in too much. The best system is a battery trickle charger. So either you can do that in the motorhome or take it out and put it in your house. If you put it in your house, don't put it by a radiator, don't put it anywhere that's too warm or in direct sunlight, but also don't put it anywhere too cold. A garage might be okay, you can put them on a concrete floor, but it depends how cold it gets in there. You might need to find somewhere else in your house to store it. And again, you want a trickle charger, which just adds a little bit of power to it every now and then. If you have got the option to plug it into the mains and leave it on there, what a lot of people do, which is a great idea, is have it on a timer, so maybe 4 or 5 hours a day max, and it just puts in a bit of charge to keep it going, and that will charge up both your engine battery and your leisure battery and just keep it all nice and simmering along, ready for when you can use them again for the new season. Now, one thing to remember, if you do take your battery out of the motorhome, if you have an alarm or a tracker or any form of system in your vehicle that relies on your battery power, then it's obviously not going to work if you've taken your battery out. So if your insurance is based on you having a tracking system or an alarm active and fitted, then you can't obviously remove your battery. So you're going to need to find some other way, whether it's a trickle charger, whether it's a solar panel. If you've put a motorhome cover on your van, remember that your solar panel will be covered, so that won't work. But there are lots of options that you can use just to give it a little bit of a charge and make sure that it stays all right over winter. Couple of other things that you can do in your van when you can't actually use it. This is a brilliant time to fix stuff. Anything that's broken, anything that rattles, anything that drives you mad. If you've been watching our channel for a while, you'll know that we love our motorhome, which is a Swift 685, but we hate the wardrobe door. Hate it with a passion. So we took it off. And we've now got a nice curtain in there and it all looks amazing. I'm going to do an update video at some point with all these mods done, but that's a brilliant winter job, something that you can do and makes your life easier and doesn't take up your time during the summer when you actually want to be out and about using the van. If you're crafty or if you're clever, this is a great time to do things like pillows or throws or bedding or curtains or anything that you want to do to pimp up your van. We've put a new backsplash on. What else other jobs have we done? I feel like we've done lots. We've been playing around with all sorts of things. Again, going to do a full update video on this, so I'm not going to try and remember it off the top of my head now. But yeah, this perfect time to go through what really bugs you, what niggles you, what could you make better. This is a brilliant time to do it. And of course, the other job that you can do is start planning out your future road trips, because at some point we are going to be able to travel again, whether it's within the UK or across Europe or wherever you might be. We are going to be allowed, I promise, at some point. Sometime it will happen. So if you've got some places planned that you want to go and visit, that will make your life even easier. So it's a brilliant time, and also it's keeping me sane. It's the only thing keeping me sane is researching places that we can go when we're allowed to travel again. If you want some help or some ideas for that, there are loads of guides, itineraries, ideas and things that you need to know about various countries in Europe. They're all on the website. Again, the link is in the notes for you to grab that. So when it comes to the point where you can use your van again, whether it's a quick trip down the road or whether we're actually allowed to cross borders, shocking I know, a couple of things that you need to remember to do to your motorhome if you have winterised it. So obviously if you've taken your batteries out, you need to reconnect them properly. If you've opened all your pipes, then you need to shut all those up. You need to remove any of your vent covers, obviously remove your motorhome cover if you've used one. You need to check your tyre pressure and also check for bald spots or flat patches or bulging spots. Get a full engine check done. If you don't know what you're doing, get somebody to do it for you. Make sure that they check the oil and the water and everything in the engine. Make sure that it's fully serviceable. Fill up your fuel, fill up your LPG and take it for a good run. Give it a good blast. Make sure that everything's working okay. There's no weird wobbles on the steering or the wheels or anything like that. Then give it a good clean. Of course you can do this during the winter as well, so give it a good clean inside and out. But before the new season starts, give it a good clean and make sure it's all nice and happy and shiny. And then the last thing to remember, if you you have sawned your vehicle, then you need to unsawn it before you use it again. I cannot tell you how many people have forgotten to do that. So do please remember to unsawn your vehicle if you have done that. And also obviously, of course, make sure that it's insured and MOT'd and everything else that you need so that it is ready to go. So that's everything from me. Don't forget, if you want the checklist of all of those things, then you can grab it using the link below. I hope you're staying safe and well. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.
We are out. We're